my jazz friends all over the world. Sandra Sherman here. Greetings from Austria. I've got a bunch of requests on a lesson of tension chords for jazz comping as a follow-up to my 7th chord lesson I had a while ago. So here it is. I'll show you tension chords with the roots on the E and the A string that are suitable for comping. Thus we go no higher than the B string to not collide with the melody or solo. Since this is an intermediate lesson, I'll go through everything a little quicker, but still show you all the chords in detail. I'll focus on teaching you the underlying theory behind these chords. I've made a PDF with all the chords in this lesson, which you can download from my website. The link is down below in the description. We've got a lot to do, so let's get started. What are tensions actually? Everything above the 7 is considered a tension. We stack above the 7, we stack the 9th, the 11th and the 13th, and also the alterations thereof, but I'll cover these in another video. We have 5 families, each of them living in their own house or apartment. So we have the major family living in a major house, dominant house, we have the minor house, and then we have 2 apartments. We have the half-diminished apartment and a diminished apartment. They have apartments because their family is so cluttered already, there is not enough room for new family members. So they live in tiny little apartments. Now you can exchange each family member for one another to your liking, but it's best practice to pick the nearest chord possible. Okay, the family member that lays next to the one before. All right, let's start with the major family from the E string. We have the following family members: major 9, major 11, and major 13. The 11 is in constant fight with the 3rd, a very important family member. You better consider the 11th the mother-in-law that tries to interfere. So practically we stick to 9 and 13. All right, let's make everything in C. We have a C on the 8th fret of the E string, and this is our C major chord. And if you don't know that, you please revisit my 7th video on my video on 7th chords. Now, here is the root. Here is the major 7th. That's important to know now, because now we can change our voicing if we know what is going on within that chord. Root, major 7th, 3rd and 5th. The only chord tone we can take away is the 5th. So we take away the 5th to replace it by a 6th or a 13th in this case. And the 6th is up here on the 10th fret. So now we have a major 13 voicing. Okay? 8th fret, 9, 9, 10. Why is it called major 13 and not 6? Because that 13 is a 6, as you probably know. It's called a major 13 because there is also a 7th included in the voicing. As soon as you have a 7th, everything is called an octave higher. So this is a 13. It's only called a 6th when you replace the 7th by a 6th. Okay, so here we have a major 13 chord. So what else can we do? We can play a real 6th chord, replacing the major 7th. Let's go back to the major 7th. The 7th was here, or is here, on the 9th fret of the B string, and the 6th is here. This is major 7, flat 7th, this is the 6th. It's on the 7th fret of the D string. Now, if I remain all the other tones in place, I get this chord. 8th of E, 7th of D, 9th of G, and 8th of B. And that's a C6. All right. Now I can do another thing. Actually, we don't really have options here anymore, but I can cheat a little. I can get rid of the 3rd and replace it by a 2nd, and we call this a C6-9 chord. This is the root. On the 7th fret we have the 6th from before. Now we have a 9th here and the 5th here. Why do I call this C6-9? Actually, I would have to call it, to be real correct, this would be a C6 sus2 chord, because I replaced the 3rd by the 2nd. If I don't have the 3rd in the chord anymore, it's called a sus chord. But in jazz, I mean, you have to view the whole thing. We don't just play this. Usually we kind of mix these chords together, or someone in the band always plays the 3rd, the bass man or the piano player. So the intention of this chord is not a sus chord. The intention is to play a major chord with a 9th in it. So we call it a C6-9 because that's its function, okay? So let's not be a nitpicker. Let's call it C6-9. That's the function it has, okay? First thing you can do is you practice these things, these chords, one after another, okay? You can make little melodies here within the comping by looking at the top note. We have 2 chords with the same top note here, the regular 7th and the 6-9 chord, also the 6th chord. So it's 3 chords. They have all the same top note, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to change between these because it always will sound somehow similar. But to change the top note with that major 13, that makes a lot of sense. Now I've created a little melody going on in the upper voice. Welcome to the dominant house. We have family members 9, 11, and 13 in here. And again, that 11 is a little in fight. Here's the evil mother-in-law again fighting with the major 3rd. So, but in this case, we kind of have a subgroup with sus4 chords. So we can somehow use it. I'll show you in a second. All right, let's go over to a C again on the E string from the 8th fret, and here is a C7 chord, just a guide tone voicing here, 8 of D and 9 of G. We can also play the 5th on the B string, then I fret it like this or whatever, like this. We replace the 5th instantly because this sounds like my hometown music. Austrian country music. We don't like that in jazz. So we replace it with the 6th or the 13th in this case. Like on a major 13 we had before, but now it's a dominant 13th. 8, 8, 9, 10. C13 or C7-13. We do not need to say the word 7 in here because C13 is known as a dominant chord. You only have to say major 7-13 or major 13 if it's a major chord. If it's not a major chord, you just say 13, C13, then it's a dominant chord automatically. All right, well, what else can we do here? We said 9. Okay, we do have a 9 here indeed, like before, but before on a major family, we exchanged we replaced the 3rd. I have my 9th already here on the 7th fret of G, so we are 8, 8D and 7, and now I need my 3rd, and luckily enough it's within reach. It's not very comfortable, but it's within reach. B string 5th fret. So what I get is this. It's a nice chord. 8, 8D, 7G, and 5th of B. That's a C9 chord. Root 7, 9th, 3rd. Everything we need except for the 5th. We don't need the 5th. All right, we have another 9th chord here actually. Or let's check out the sus first. If I move this 3rd one up to the right to the 6th fret, everything else remains. 8, 8, 7, 6 now. What I get is, instead of a C9, I get a C9 sus4 because I changed the 3rd to the 4th. And the 4th, we said, is in fight with the 3rd, but right now I don't have a 3rd in there, so there's nothing to fight against. So that's perfectly okay to play that, but in the following situations, either your lead sheet says something like sus, like C7, sus4, or whatever. The pianists often have write C13, sus4. Then you exchange it for any sus chord, like C9, sus4. If it just says C7, I would not play that C9 sus4 chord, because a C7 chord has a third in there. So you cannot just kick it out and say, oh, I'm playing a sus4 chord. So at least don't stay on it. What you can do is you kind of can move your chords around, like change your chords from C7 to C9 sus4 to C9. As long as you don't stay on that 9 sus4 chord too long, or on any sus4 chord too long, you can still play it over a regular C7 thing written on your lead sheet, okay? But don't stay on it too long. All right. We have another 9th chord here, but this one doesn't have a root, and it's actually an E half diminished. All right, okay, let's check this out. We have a virtual root here on the E string, but we don't play it because we don't have enough fingers left. So I can't even reach it with my thumb. So we start on the 3rd. We have a 7th here. We have our 9th. We already know that this is a 9th here. 3 strings, 1 to the left is a 9th. And we have our 5th here. So that's a perfectly valid 9th chord, but no root. So when we don't have the root, it doesn't sound like a C, you would say. That's true if you don't have a bass player. As long as you have bass player or keyboard player, somebody plays the root all the time. Okay, and also we don't always stick on the same chord for all the time, so we change our chords. And I hear the C, or the ear gets to hear that root all the time, except for one short time. So that's okay, right? So this was a 9 chord, C9 chord. What else we got? That was it. Yeah, that was it. Here is the minor house with the minor family members. We have 9, 11, 13, but the 13 is not what we like in this house. So in practical use, we would only use the 9th and the 11th. Let's have a look at it. We are on the C again, 8th fret of the E string. And this is our regular minor 7 chord, which you should know by now. If not, check out the video of my 7 jazz chords. All right. We have a 5th up here. This is the only thing that we can get rid of. And what is close enough to the 5th? The 9th or the 11th? The 11th, of course. The 11th is the 4th, so the 4th is close to the 5th. 5, flat 5, 4. Here's the 4th. So we are 8, 8D, 8G, and 6B. And we don't call this C minor 4. We call it C minor 11 because there is a 7th in there. So it's stacked above the 7. We have to call the upper names, 9, 11, 13. So this is a C minor 11. You could also say C minor 7, 11. All right. And we don't have a 9th in here, all right? So this is the only thing we can play. Why do we not like the 13 or the 6th in here? Actually, we could play the 6th or the 13th if you exactly know, if you make sure that you're on the 2nd degree, that your minor chord is on the 2nd degree of your scale. For example, when you have a 2-5-1. Let's say we're in 2-5-1 of B flat, then C minor 7 is the 2nd degree. Now, that scale has a 6th in there, a major 6th, then we can play a C minor 6th or C minor 13, but that doesn't really sound good. So for that C minor 7, we get rid of the 7th and replace it with a 6th, 1 fret to the left, which is the 7th fret, 8, 7, 8, 8. That's a C minor 6, and it's perfectly fine to play that when you're on the 2nd degree of your scale. If you're not, or if you're not aware of it, if you don't know where you are, then just don't play it, okay? Because it would be a wrong note. You cannot play it when it's the 3rd or the 6th degree of the scale. That's where minor chords appear. 2nd, 3rd, and 6th grade of the scale. But you can only play it on the 2nd. All right, that was it for the minor chord. And as I mentioned before, we don't have half-diminished and diminished houses. We have apartments, but they're too cluttered. There is not enough room. Half-diminished has a flat 5 in there, as does diminished, and we cannot get rid of that flat 5 chord, flat 5 note, because it's very important. It's vital to that chord. Before, we changed the 5 and replaced it by the 4th or the 13th or whatever. We can't do that now. So we ain't got no fingers left. We haven't got any place for that, any room. There's not enough room in that apartment. Sorry. All right, let's get over to the A string. All right, we're on the A string now, starting out with the major family again. We are here. You probably know this chord. The thing is, the 5th here, which we usually replace with other notes, is in the middle here, and it's hard to replace stuff here. So we're looking for a different voicing, and we find this here. This is a guide tone voicing. 3rd of A, 2nd of D, and the 4th of G string. This is a C major 7. That's the root, the 3rd, and the 7th. And you remember our family members were 9 and 13. We don't like the bad mother-in-law, the 11th. So we find a 9th here. The D is the 9th of that chord, or generally speaking, the 9th. So what we get is 3, 2, 4, 3. All right? Hope you can see that okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 4, 3. C major 9 chord. All right. If we take that pinky off, this is the 7th here. I take it off, I lift it up, and I bar the index finger over the 2nd fret. So we have 3, 2, 2, 3 of the inner 4 strings. We replace the major 7 by the 6th, with the 6th. Is it with or by? All right, so this is a C6-9 now. Root, 3rd, 6th, which makes it a C6, and 9th, C6-9. And now we really have a 3rd in there. On the E string before, we had that same voicing, but with the middle finger on the root of the E string. Everything else was the same. Okay? But we had no 3rd in there, so this was kind of a fake 6-9 chord. Now it's a real 6-9 chord. Don't mix up these two chords. That's a C6-9. Having the middle finger down is a G6-9. Actually, you could also say this is a C6-9 with a 5th in bass, okay? We have that in Latin a lot. Okay? So this has kind of multiple purpose, okay? Right, C6-9. And one last chord, major 7, 6, 9, is an ending chord, a C6 chord. Oops, that was wrong, sorry. That's actually a basic C chord, cowboy chord, with a 6th in there instead of the 5th. The 5th is the 0 fret, the open G string. And if I replace that 5th, that's a 5th, with a 6th, the A is the 6th of C, then what I get is a C6 or an A minor with C in bass. See, those chords can have different names. 3 of A, 2 of G and B, of D and G, and 1 of B. This is an ending chord. Do not play this chord constantly. What you can do is, again, you can play it in a compilation of chords and don't rest on it. Just shortly and up again. Right? And that's a way you can practice it. And include that regular basic C major 7 chord also, please, for your practices, because you have another top note here, so you can make perfect melodies if you have like two chords, 2 bars of C major chord, which happens very often on a 2-5-1-1. Then I'll play something like this. All right, C major 7 for half a bar, C major 9 or 6-9, whatever you like. They both have the same top note. Then a C6 with this top note, and then back to the other one with the other top note. So if you had this before, play major 7. If you had major 7 before, then play 6-9. All right, but don't end on this except for real endings, or everybody in your concert will go home before you close the show. We don't want that, so stay here. All right. And here is the dominant family from the A string. We are on the 3rd fret of the A string, and we start with a guide tone voicing again, so we are able to add our tensions. 3rd of A, 2nd of D string, and this time the 3rd time of the G string. Before, on a major chord, we had it the 4th fret, and now we have the 3rd fret because we need to flatten our major 7 to a flat 7. So now we are on C7. All right, and we already know that our 9th is down here. So we just add the 9th here. 3, 2, 3, 3. So we have the root, the 3rd, the 7th, and the 9th. It's a perfectly valid C9 chord. All right, we can make a C9 sus4 chord out of this again by replacing the 3rd here with the 4th. Looks like kind of a line here, 3, 3, 3, 3. So now it's a C9 sus4 chord. Again, you can only play that over other sus chords or just quickly in between. All right. Then I have another chord here for you. I think a lot of people don't know this chord because it doesn't start with the root. It starts with the 7th in bass. So here is your root, the C, and you start with the flat 7th in bass. Then you have the 3rd again. This is always the 3rd here from the root. Then a 6th, which we now call a 13 because a 7th is already in there. As we learned, if a 7th is already in there, we say 9, 11, 13, and not 2. So, 13, not 6, sorry. I'm getting confused myself. So 7th, 3rd, 13. And this is the root. So the root is on top now. So if you want to move this, like for example, to an F13, just look for an F and play that. All right. So what you can do is practice to move these two. We have different top notes. That's perfect for making a little melody within the comping. Just quickly, I added that 7 chord, which is really a cowboy chord, but to play it quickly in between is okay. So those are our 2 basic dominant chords. And the last family is the minor family, and from the A string, we play the guide tone voicing before we add the tensions again. So we have the 3rd of the A, the minor 3rd is on the 1st fret of the D string, and the 7th is on the 3rd string of the G string. 3rd fret of the G string. So middle index ring, and now we add the 9th again. We know we have the 9th and the 11th. Don't play the 6th, and we don't have a good 6th here anyway. So this is a C minor 9 chord. Sounds really awesome, doesn't it? Now that's about the only tension chord we have here, for comping at least. But I show you a trick that you can do to have great melodies in the comping. That was a little much now, but just to show it. Okay, you move your pinky out to the right from the ninth, and what you get is a third again. Okay, now we have 2/3, which is not the best, but just for making a little melody, that's perfect. I move it back into the ninth again, and then I want another melody note included. The first, which is the root again. We have 2 roots then. This is really not that good, but for having a little melody in there, it's perfect. So the root on top, it would be 3, 1 barring, 3 and 1 bar. Always just the inner 4 strings. I usually play it fretted, barred all the way through, but I just play the inner 4 strings, okay? That's because I have tiny, tiny little fingers. Okay? All right, that was the minor family again, half diminished and diminished. We cannot play any tensions, at least not here in the comping area. We can do that on the upper chords then. All right. So how do you apply this to your playing? How do you practice this? Take a song that's familiar to you. In our case, I take All the Things You Are because it's perfect for practicing. It features all 5 chord types, all 5 chord families. And then what you want to create is you want to have a smooth top note movement, voice leading we call this. So the highest note of your chord wants to move a little. Imagine this, it's called voicing for a reason. These, the tones of a chord are like voices in a choir. So you have like the bass, the tenor, alt, soprano, whatever. And each one wants to move a little, especially the highest note, the top note, because it's mostly audible to the listener, noticeable, okay? So you want to create those smooth movements. Let's take that example of All the Things You Are. It starts with an F minor 7 in the lead sheet. So we want to apply, let's say we're comping the solo, okay? Because for when you comp the head, the melody, you don't play all these fancy chords. You stick to 7th or 9th or just, you know, basic chords to not collide with the melody too much. So we take an F minor 9, for example. That's the A string, 8, 6, 8, 8. Next chord is a B flat minor 7 in the lead sheet. Now, we learned that we can play, the nearest root is the 6th string. Here's a B flat on the 6th fret of the 6th string. So you could play a B flat minor 7 or a B flat minor 11. That's what we learned today. I would choose the B flat minor 7 here because the top note is closer to the F minor 9 before its top note. This was the 8th fret, and here the B flat minor 7 has its top note on the 6th fret, while the B flat minor 11 has its top note on the 4th. That's a real jump here. What you can do, because sometimes you end up just playing 7th chords this way, so what you can do is you play half a bar of B flat minor 7 and then half a bar of B flat minor 11. Thus, you have this melody. Okay, this is a nice comping thing. Where were we? Oh yeah, here. For example. Okay, next one, we have an E flat 7 in the chord sheet. So what we do, we search for the nearest E flat and we find it here on the A string. And we have an E flat 9 chord here. And that's perfect since our last top note was here and now the new top note of the E flat 9 is here. That's a perfect movement. Okay, so F minor 9, B flat minor 7, B flat minor 11, E flat minor 9. It would be okay if you had B flat minor 7 for a whole bar and then E flat 9 had the same top note. That's okay once in a while. That's not a problem, okay? Better to have the same top note than jumping around like crazy, okay? Doesn't sound good, it's not pleasing for the ear, and it's very unnatural. You don't sing that way. You don't sing like, okay, you sing like, All right, next chord is A flat major. We learned, the closest one is here on the 4th of the E. We learned that we have the A flat major 7 and we had A flat major 13. Also we had A flat 6, 9, etc. So a couple of chords with the 4th on top note and one chord with the 6th fret on top note. We come from the E flat 9. So we might not directly want to go to that A flat major 13 because we have the same top note. We just go to a basic A flat major 7 or A flat 6, 9, yeah. So I choose that A flat major 7 and half a bar later I split that bar and then I go back to that major 13. So I have, that's a nice movement, okay? So I come from, let's start from beginning. And one last chord, D flat major 7, that's the first 5 chords of this song, that should be enough to show you how to do that. Next D flat is here, the nearest one, and our top note was here, let's keep that in mind, 6th fret of B. Okay, so we probably don't want to go to that D flat major 7, that's the same top note, okay? Doesn't sound that good. So we have a D flat major 9 here or 6, 9. We play either one, which one you prefer. Okay, so we come from here and I'll play a major 9 chord. If I want to, I could split that chord again and go back to here, but I'll leave it as is. Don't do too many chords in a comping or it's getting really busy, you know, like a hive of bees swirling around. Okay, I'll play those 5 bars for you so you can hear how it sounds and get an imagination how good voice leading sounds. 3, 4. I hope this was a good lesson for you and I was able to teach you something. If you like the lesson, please give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button to subscribe to my channel, and I see you next time. Auf Wiedersehen from Vienna.